I am Amy Vetter, and welcome to the Breaking Beliefs podcast. This valuable time is for you to pause in your day and go on your own self-journey. Discover the beliefs that are holding you back from living your best life at work and at home. Learn from the guests on this show as they share their inspirational stories on how they found ways to break internal beliefs that were no longer serving them. Because if you believe you can, you will. And our podcast begins now. Welcome to this episode of Breaking Beliefs, where I interview Tamara Levitt. She has worked as head of mindfulness at the meditation app Calm, where she has been responsible for creative development of Calm's mindfulness and meditation portfolio of audio programs. She has built Calm's content library, writing, producing, and recorded the company's meditations. With Tamara at the helm as head meditation instructor, Calm's audience has grown to over 7 million downloads worldwide. Calm was named App of the Year by Apple in 2017. Tamara is the author of 2 children's books, Happiness Doesn't Come from Headstands and The Secret to Claire's Calm. Both are published by Wisdom Publications. Additionally, Tamara is a musician, producer, and speaker. This interview was recorded during 2019, and it is being published for the first time on this podcast. During this interview, Tamara discusses why people have sleep issues and how meditation can help. Hi, this is Amy Vetter, and this week I'm on with Tamara Levitt from Calm, and I'm going to let Tamara introduce herself and talk a little bit about what she does at Calm.
Sure. So it's great to be here. Thank you for having me on. I work as head of mindfulness at Calm. We are a wellness app where we started off with meditation, and now we branched over into masterclasses and sleep and all things that can help support people in their emotional and mental well-being. So I write, produce, and narrate all of our mindfulness and meditation content, and have basically been overseeing our growing library of audio programs.
Wow, that's such an important thing to expand upon. I'm a yoga instructor. I also speak on what I call the B3 method, business, balance, and bliss. And one of the things I talk about in there is how meditation helps you with sleep. Yeah. So it's really nice that you've branched off to that. And why did you even go that route, and what kind of benefits are you seeing?
With sleep specifically?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's actually more people who have sleep issues than are learning to meditate. And, yes. So many of us in this chaotic, stressed out modern world where we're full of pressures and deadlines, we go to bed, and just because we feel like our body is ready for sleep, it doesn't mean that our mind instantly turns off. So meditation is incredibly valuable in helping to support people get more restful, better sleep, because it teaches us how to calm our minds. Before bed, especially. I love meditating before bed.
Yeah, me too.
Taking that pause in your day and preparing yourself for bed and focusing on the present moment helps us to prevent getting caught up in all of our anxieties about the future and ruminating about the past. So when we go to bed, our mind is quieter and there's less of a fight. And meditation also teaches us how to deepen non-reactivity. So for those of us who have struggled with insomnia, myself included, it can be extremely supportive because it teaches us how to not get stressed out when we're lying in bed and we're unable to sleep. And we can basically observe what's happening in our mind and our body and just stay calm so that we're not actually increasing our anxiety when we're trying to sleep.
Yeah.
And in terms of the results, it's actually incredible. I wouldn't even believe it if I didn't receive, thousands of letters from our users telling me that they're finally sleeping after years of not being able to sleep, and that they are and that they're getting off sleeping pills, and that now putting their kids to bed is a pleasure.
Yeah.
People love both the meditations and the sleep stories that we have, which are basically bedtime stories for grown-ups.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what gets missed a lot, because sleep is one of those things people make a joke about not having and so forth. But if you don't get the right amount of sleep, it actually carries into your workday in the next day, and how you interact in the business situations that you're in, the stress levels you have that next day, and so forth. So really understanding the importance of this, and meditation being a step toward that as well, as you start training your mind, is really important. And a lot of times I think mindfulness can be used as this broad term, and people don't really understand what that means, but it's really what can help us in the workplace. So how have you seen Calm or other meditation teachings that you have helped people with, help them at work or in business?
Yeah, so mindfulness, it really applies the same way in regular day-to-day life as it does in the workplace. And it's basically about being present and fully in the moment in a non-judgmental way, whatever moment that we're in. And so a few examples of ways that mindfulness can help support people in the workplace are learning to deal with stress and anxiety, which is constant, really.
Right.
We're facing massive deadlines and pressures, and we're also dealing with a lot of uncertainty, because a lot of our industries are rapidly changing right now. So mindfulness teaches us awareness so that we are able to recognize when we're stressed. We can actually recognize sensations in our mind and body that often we don't pay attention to. And then it teaches us how to respond to our mental state so that we can treat our situation more skillfully, right? We can take time to pause, calm ourselves down, and then go back into work, feeling more calm and less anxious. Another example is that we're less reactive. So a lot of the time, work is incredibly stressful, and we have these autopilot tendencies that we fall into, and we become very reactive. So we do things without taking time to think. A perfect example is emails. And I used to do this a lot, where I used to feel like I needed to reply to all emails instantly.
Yes.
And if I was upset about something, then that would actually, that might actually escalate a situation. So mindfulness can really help people, and this is something I can attest to. It's helped me to learn to pause, calm myself down, and wait until I'm able to respond to a situation more skillfully. And this improves our relationships, and it prevents further conflict. So that's a really big one, learning how to be non-reactive in the workplace. I think another thing that's really big is productivity, right? Because, we're constantly distracted by phones and our email and, social media. And there's so many things that are distracting us now in our day-to-day life. So mindfulness and meditation specifically teaches us as we sit to come back to our breath over and over. And our thoughts are going to arise frequently, but we learn to come back, bring ourselves back over and over. And so we can bring this into the workplace. We're more likely to recognize when we're swept away by social media or any other means of distraction and bring ourselves back. And this really improves our focus and our productivity.
So when we talk about business leaders, a lot of times, this initiative is becoming, I would say, trending up as far as mindfulness in the workplace and so forth. However, what I've seen is that for a business to really be successful with putting this in the workplace, it has to start with the leader. Because without the example of a leader doing it, then it's hard to believe in from a corporate or a business perspective of everyone else looking there.
Yeah.
So what would you say to business leaders about, number one, how did they even get started? Because they're busy people running businesses, being part of a startup as well, how crazy it can be.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you fit it in? And secondly, what are the impacts as a leader that you see as a benefit from putting this into
So
place?
in terms of actually taking the time to develop mindfulness in our busy lives, I'll just speak to the way that they're doing it at Google and Nike and a lot of other big companies. They're bringing mindfulness into the workplace by having mindfulness educators come in and teach classes, or using apps like Calm. We at Calm, we start the day with a 10-minute meditation. And we have something called the Daily Calm, which is, a new session every single day. And it's an amazing way to bring mindfulness into the workplace. When you start the day with mindfulness, then you will be mindful in your conversations and in your all of your interactions and in the way that you're working through the day. So, that is a really impactful way. These tools weren't available, 20 years ago, and they are now, and people are taking advantage of them, and they're seeing really big benefits. So, they're seeing stronger team dynamics. They're seeing better relationships with employees and with, managers and employees. They're seeing, basically there's fewer rash decisions that are being made that can damage the business because there's more skillful decision making. There's better productivity because people have greater concentration. There's more, one of the things that mindfulness teaches us is non-judgment and compassion in our relationship with others. And, especially leaders working with employees, having employees felt heard and strengthening those relationships is so pivotal. It really strengthens employees' sense of happiness in the workplace. And it also reduces health issues, right? When employees are sick, that costs money. So those are some of the things. Creativity is also a really big one. Mindfulness and meditation, for me, is one of the most direct routes to creative problem solving and just creativity in general. So there are massive benefits to bringing mindfulness into the workplace. Less conflict, much better conflict resolution skills. That's another one for sure.
Yeah, it's when you give your brain some space away from a problem, away from trying to come up with a new idea that you all of a sudden figure it out a lot of times.
Exactly.
So I want to go back to one thing you talked about, because it's a very easy type thing to put into play. When you said that at Calm, you do the 10-minute daily calm. Is that what you called it?
Yes.
So could you go a little bit more in detail? Because I think that's something, everyone's got 10 minutes in their business. And maybe talk about that journey a little bit, like getting it started, how much buy-in was there to do it? What do you actually do for those 10 minutes? So that some business owners can see if that would work for them to put it into their business as an idea.
Right, yeah. So, I think that using an app is probably the most cost-effective way to bring mindfulness into a business. The way that we do it at Calm is we have a large meeting room that everyone meets in the morning. People can sit on chairs, they can sit on cushions, some people sit on the floor. However people feel comfortable is perfectly fine. And we actually have a phone that's connected to speakers, and we just press play. It's that and in terms of the process of meditation, the act of it involves often closing your eyes. You don't have to close your eyes, but it's a nice way to go inward and not have distractions. So, I sit with my eyes closed. And we close our eyes, and there's different types of meditation practices. But in mindfulness meditation or insight meditation, which is, I think, the most common type of meditation that has been brought into the West, involves focusing our attention on an anchor, any kind of anchor that is sensation focused. So it could be the breath, it could be body sensations, it could be sound, anything that's happening in the present moment to keep us returning to the present moment when we get lost in it, right? And as I mentioned, we get lost in it a lot. And so this strengthens our ability to tune into what's going on within. It strengthens concentration. It deepens our ability to be less reactive in life. And it really does, I think of meditation often, the way that I share it with kids is, if you imagine a glitter globe, and you kind of compare the glitter that kind of whirls and twirls around to our thoughts, our stressful thoughts. When you allow that globe to sit, all the glitter settles. And that's what happens with our stressful thoughts. So it's incredible. After just 10 minutes sitting together and then ending the meditation and then moving into our day together starts the day with this calm, peaceful mind.
So do you take any time to talk afterward if anyone wants to share things about the meditation, or does everyone just disperse in their day when it's finished?
So I actually am not based in San Francisco. So I'm not always there. I go back and forth. So sometimes I'm there in the office. When I'm there, sometimes people will have questions after, and I'll be there. But when I'm not there, they'll often share with each other, and it's actually a really nice way to connect with people, because there's so many different themes that we focus on, and they're all themes that resonate with people. I like to share a lot of stories in my sessions, and so people will often talk about the stories or how the meditation has impacted them. Or if it does bring up a question, then people will communicate and talk, and it really does bring people closer. In relationships, and all kinds of relationships. But I've heard, in marriages and in families that meditate together, it so completely strengthens the relationship between the people that are sitting together. So it's really lovely. And I know in our team, our team is a really strong team, and there's amazing communication and compassion. And I think meditation is a really big part of what's promoted that.
Yeah, I would say in this time of technology as well, and I like the idea of using an app. My staff is pretty much all remote, and really you could set the time on the calendar for everyone to get on at the same time, and you just hit play together on the app and just be there together while you're doing it, and then be able to talk after. So even if you're not physically in an office together in this time, where people can work from anywhere, it's just, I think, such a great practice to put into play, just so that everybody starts their day together and intentional. So I love that idea. I think it could be really helpful for business owners out there. So any other tips that you would like to provide, or examples that you think would be important for anyone listening to this?
Well, I think that, mindfulness doesn't happen overnight, right? So we've got these habit patterns of the mind, these tendencies and behaviors that we've had for years. So I think kind of setting the expectation that it's not going to happen overnight is important, but also recognizing that the impact that meditation and mindfulness can have is tremendous. And again, some people see the benefits immediately, but that if you don't see the benefits immediately, it's okay. It doesn't mean that it's not working. All it means is that it's taking time. And often we don't even see the changes in ourselves. So I've heard that, there are some people that have spoken with family members and friends and have said, I haven't really noticed that much of a difference. And their family will say, I have. And that's a really interesting thing, because we don't notice the same way we don't, there's so many things that we don't notice about ourselves. Other people really do notice the benefits. But, for me, I've seen massive, massive benefits in many ways. And then in other ways, it's taken a lot of time. And so we need to be patient in our practice. We also need to be committed to it. So having a regular practice is really important. It's more important that we're practicing regularly, even for short periods of time, than to practice really sporadically and not have that kind of consistency of mindfulness throughout our week. So those are some of the suggestions that I'd make.
Yeah, I think that's great. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your knowledge. And they will now see you, but hear your voice on the app if they download it. So thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
And now for our mindful moments of this interview that I had with Tamara in 2019, all about how mindfulness meditation can help with our energy and what we want to create around us. And one of the topics that we had during this discussion that was really important was all about sleep. And I think too often we kind of push that to the side of that we don't sleep well, or, I can't get 8 hours and make a joke of it. But all the studies say that women in particular need 8 to 10 hours of sleep, and men need 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And the reason that is so important is that during the night, we are clearing out emotions so that when we wake up the next morning, we feel refreshed. That's a lot of times why we hear when people say, I just need a good night's sleep. Well, it's because when we wake up in the morning, we are still not holding on to the stressors or the frustrations or things that upset us, because our mind has had the opportunity to clear it out during our sleep. When we aren't sleeping well, we may not understand the energy that we're creating with the people around us because we're feeling off. And so coming up with a sleep routine is really important when you're thinking about how to really implement mindfulness in your day, because when you show up better, then you show up better for the people around you. The other thing we talked about is how to bring this into the workplace, which is so important as well. That we find ways that we can take breaks during the day to maybe 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. She talked about how they actually do it at Calm with having defined breaks where people can come into a room together and listen to a guided meditation or do it individually. But that's actually designated time, because we know that when we give the brain release, we actually can feel better during our day, get more present, be more productive as well in the work that we're doing. So the power of apps such as Calm and others in this space is really important to consider when we think about all of the benefits of really understanding how to get still and observe our brain, observe our mind, not judgment, but really observing why we're feeling a certain way so that we can then be intentional of how we go through our day. So if we're feeling lethargic, we actually can be intentional about the things that we need to do in order to not feel lethargic that day. What do we need to do to offset that? That might be in how we eat or how we break up our calendar in the day. Maybe we need to go take a walk or work out or meditate, whatever that is, to help us with getting through the day with the energy we want to put out for the people around us. Now, as part of this podcast, we will also be having what's called B3 Break Series. And this is going to be a short podcast that will be offered each week that will give you tips like this that you can incorporate into your day. Some of them might be me leading a meditation, talking about mindfulness, eating, little things that you can do throughout the day to reset your mind, as well. And these will be short podcasts so that you can feel the effects once you practice these things to see how it might change the way you go about your day or the way that you feel. So I'm hoping that this interview was very helpful and maybe gave you some new insight of how you can incorporate this for yourself, but also maybe for the people around you at work or at home, so that you can show up in the way that you want. And if you think this would be helpful to somebody, please share this podcast to somebody that could use this kind of inspiration to help them with creating the energy that they want during their day as well. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Breaking Beliefs podcast. I hope you will take a moment to pause before entering back into your day to reflect on this podcast and note 1 to 2 actions you are inspired to do from today's conversation that you could incorporate into your life. To read the full blog and listen back to this episode or any other, you can find them at www.amyvetter.com/Breaking Beliefs podcast and related videos on my YouTube channel. For daily inspiration, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Amy Vetter CPA. I hope that you will choose to like this and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and more, so that you can join us for more inspiration on our next episode.